The red plug. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Peter Ferreira from Graham Beck. And I'm really here to talk about a sparkling Cap Classique conversation rather than just taking you through one of our wines, which we will anyway do. So, yeah, during this troubled times and sort of unprecedented happenings, this is day 8 of the national lockdown. And we really feel that we have something to share. And I hope that you enjoy my presentation. Today's conversation is all about the influence of stemware and the effect it will have on your favorite Cap Classique. This is obviously something that you can do at home, and I will urge you to do this at a stage to see for yourself. So what I have done is I have taken our standard Graham Beck Brut, the non-vintage. It's a wine that has spent 16 months on the lees. It was recently disgorged in January, so it is nice to use a fresh one because in freshness or a wine that is not so long on the cork, you have much more primary fruit flavors. So I've decided to take 6 stemwares. This, in a way, has also been something we've been working at our tasting room in Robertson to find a solution for the taste experience. Every wine and every sort of tier that we do have in our bubbly portfolio, our Cap Classique portfolio, do validate to have their own taste glass. So just to put it out there, if you do visit, and those of you have been to the tasting room, we'll see that we do use different stemwares for our various flights of Cap Classique. This is not an illusion, as you see right in front of you. I've taken 1 bottle of wine and given each glass equal parts. The saying goes that a glass of bubbles or a bottle of bubbles will give you 6 pours. So yeah, in front of us, we have 6 pours. First of all, I want to just show you about the illusion. You would think that I have shortchanged some of the glasses, but in actual fact, they have equal amount. This volume in here is just over 110 millimeters of wine. And I have chosen to go to the old-fashioned coupe and then use the flute glass. Then we have the new Overture glass from Riedel, that is the non-vintage glass that we used back at the winery. Then we have the Verito glass, which is slightly bigger. You'll notice the bigger the glass becomes, the wider the bowl becomes. And then we have a very fancy one. If I bring this one up very closely, you can see this is what they call a high performance glass. There's little waves inside this glass. It's also from Riedel. It's known as the performance range. And those little lips all on the inside actually helps to expand your experience or flavor experience in the glass. And then last but not least, we have the Lehman glass, designed by Philippe James. He is a well-known sommelier out of Champagne, and he has worked on this glass for obviously things. So why do we want to give you this experience? First of all, if one goes to the coupe, you can notice it's very difficult to move it around because it's fairly filled to the brim. And then if you're able to put there, it's really like there's nothing to smell, because somehow the flavors just, when they reach the top, they simply just sort of run over. A similar experience when they've decided to move from the coupe to the flute. You have similar airspace at the top, so you have very little opportunity to get your nose right in there. And if you sort of put your nose there, somehow it doesn't do. However, in a flute, if I can bring this slightly closer, you can see the traveling of the bubbles. It's actually really, really nice. I'll just give you a little bit more of a look. I hope you can see that. Maybe a darker background would be fantastic. But it's all about the traveling distance. Now, there is a guy called, he's a professor at the Reims University in Champagne, Gerard Belair and Leger, and he has done some really fascinating studies with high photography speed cameras, which analyzed the flow of the bubbles. You can see the nucleation of these bubbles start at the very bottom and they travel up. Now, those of you who've ever been able to scuba dive, you will remind yourself that if you're really deep down in the water and you do release a little air bubble, by the time it gets to the top, it has grown or expanded to at least 3 times its size. So what they have found under high-speed photography is that the bubble that's released over there at the top is definitely slightly wider. So obviously it's part of the mesmerizing. I love following the bubble in the flute because you have a long time to look at it, and it's really quite nice. But again, we are talking about the flavor experiences that we want to share with the consumer and friends out there. Again, just to recap really, a coupe, beautiful, very difficult to handle because of the very wide surface. And you would also note, if we had a camera from up top, that there's only action in the middle of the glass and nothing is happening on the outside because the bubbles have dissipated. The flute, much more of a showpiece for the bubble transfer from the nucleation point to the top. And again, very little opportunity to get your nose into there. But if you go to the expanded flute, the overture from Riedel, immediately you have four or five times maybe the distance. So if you now pick it up and you can smell it, immediately you can smell a little bit of fruit flavors. The Graham Beck Brut is a blend of Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, and we always try with the Chardonnay Pinot Noir, the white blend, that the Chardonnay should be the entrance. So in actual fact, we want to show you a little bit of Chardonnay. So if you go back to this glass, you can really see a little bit of light lime flavors and so much more aromatics. We continue the journey. We get to the Veritas glass, also from Riedel. Again, much more of a tulip shape in design, so the wine is expanded from the bottom, and you have all the concentration. You can imagine as the aromas build in the glass, it is even more concentrated towards the top. So one would expect, oh my, you can immediately now even see just beyond the primary fruit, you can even see a little sort of integration of the yeast flavors showing. We go on and we now get to the performance glass. Very similar to the previous glass. And I guess these little expansions in the glass itself, I hope you can see that. You can see that quite clearly. We most probably will be more of an impression on the palate. So we will wait till we taste all these wines one go. And then the lemon glass. It is, to me, sort of a real sort of hot air balloon shaped type of design. Beautiful. I guess, you know, if we had to ask 6 people, everybody will have a different choice or, you know, something that they like in their own glassware. And I'll come back to that in a short while. So again, expansion, which is the important part, according to the research that is done. You need to expand the bubble, so it has to move out a little bit into a wider area, and then you need to concentrate it. And you can see again in this balloon shape, it is really interesting. I've been very fortunate that I've been at a few Riedel glass tastings in the past, and George Riedel taught me 2 most probably important things. First of all, make sure that the wine or the glass doesn't have a thick rim on the top. This flute has got a little bit of a rim, and the reason for not having a rim, the thinner the glass is, the earlier the wine will run onto the palate. And depending on the design, as you can see, maybe from a tulip shape to the sort of balloon shape, if I can sort of use that analogy, it is how the wine will travel to the palate. And if you have a lip at the bottom of the glass and you had to use, again, this speed of photography to show it, the wine will jump off the lip and will hit only your mid-palate. And what happens, your early receptors of sweet, sour, and bitter, which sits more towards the front of the palate, is missed. So if you're paying 200 Rand for a good glass of bubbles, or a bottle of bubbles in that sense, you're only getting half of your money, because your sensations, your early sensations, is missed. So keep that in mind, that it must be a very thin finish on there. And then the other one is just how the wine will enter. Now, with this balloon shape, you are sort of slightly forced to go backwards, but I'm running ahead of the thing. So again, let me take you through the taste sensation now. We've talked about the aromatics, and I think you have a clear idea of what you can expect. Again, you know, it is rather unstable. You can see that it's really slipping around, but to me there's still a fun element to a coupe, but the wine is pretty sort of flat now, if I can say. The initial entrance, remember, as I mentioned earlier, there's only action on the inside. The outside perimeter, it's sort of known as a dead zone. Somehow the wine feels a bit flat, and I was expecting, because it's a non-vintage, to be fresh, lively, zesty, you know, and somehow you have to like go back to it. There's nothing wrong with that, but you know, you don't get that feeling of wow, freshness. On the flute, a similar sensation. Remember, the bubbles is traveling a much longer distance, so it obviously is going, and then it pops out with very little room at the top. It has a very similar feeling for me on this, and although there is a little bit more primary fruit, remember, it's all not about the initial sensation, it's how it travels on the palate and how it sort of ends in the back palate as it's going down. And this wine definitely shows much more length than the coupe shape. It's not more bright or fresh, but it's definitely longer on the palate. If we go to the Overture glass, Oh, beautiful, fresh, vibrant. Starting to really see much more than the wine it's got to show. And what I really like of this is the initial intention, the bright intention as it enters the palate, and that brightness follows right through. So it's a beautiful glass, great example of how there is synergy between the wine that we want to show and the stemware that we use. And it's really horses for courses, because maybe on a next one, and you've then had time to do this test at home, we will most probably look at a vintage or even our prestige cuvee and go through the same sensation. On the Veritas, you notice more or less the same sort of, well, they're all the same volume, but sort of in a volume metric way, very similar to the Overture, but much more aromatics that can be in the glass. CO2, the bubbles, is effervescent, so you expect the glass to be filled with aromatics. And this is really screaming fruit flavors. You can see the entrance of the Chardonnay, and even a little bit of red berry fruits, light strawberry flavors on the palate. Fantastic. Really beautiful expression. The wine stays for a long time on the palate, and yeah, it's really beautiful. We go to the performance glass from Riedel. Again, very similar to the Veritas glass on the nose. But my goodness, you wouldn't think those little indentations on the inside makes that difference, but wow, it's a complete different wine nearly. You can nearly now feel the sunshine fruit flavors coming through. There's like an extra dimension of flavors that hasn't been noticeable up to now. And again, this is only on the palate. It's just, wow, it's juicy, it's vibrant, it's delicious. So I guess when you do this at home, also you don't really need a spittoon, but you just need a little bit of extra time to really enjoy these wines. And if we get to the last one, the Lehman glass, again, beautiful aromatics. It's like it sits in the glass. It's like it's closing. It doesn't want to sort of really release it. So it's showing still much more bubble or fruit flavors in there. The bubbles have all settled down beautifully. There's a beautiful intensity and persistentness in the glass. In my next conversation, we might have to touch on a few etiquettes when it comes to serving your best Cap Classique. Yeah, there's many things we want to talk about, because one thing that goes along with stemware is either, first of all, the preparation of the stemware, how you polish the glasses, but the other thing is temperature. Temperature is vital for a wine to be showcased in a proper way. So back to the Lehman. You would notice that I actually have to tilt my head a little bit more as I drink this. It's not that you want a little bit more, it's just how the wine will run from the glass. It's a little bit like a feather on the tongue. There's just so much happening there. The complexity on the palate is beautiful, bright flavors. Also, very similar to these two, because yeah, we have the glass giving an extra dimension, like flaring the wine open. But yeah, it's a little bit more what it is. And absolutely delicious. I guess, you know, one can go back from let's call it the proper glass backwards, and you would find the influence becoming less and less and less. But that is something that you can definitely try at home. And I've come to realize when we speak about our glass act, or you know, the story and the influence of stemware, I do believe that all of you at home watching at the moment do have a favorite glass. And I really encourage anyone out there that you know, and I can see your heads going, yes, we have a favorite glass, is why not use that glass for all the wines you like to drink? Immediately, it puts you on the right foot forward, and it gives you a good feeling. Wow, today I'm going to use my special wine glass. So immediately, the atmosphere and the surroundings is just so much brighter. And whatever you are serving in that glass, it is that. So don't go and break your flutes right now. That's not what I'm saying. But I do encourage you that you should try this at home and look at the impact of how a stemware or a glass then has the influence on the sensation of the wine. Sometimes a glass would most probably show you something on the palate, it will give you aromatics, will give you a complete sensation. But it's not like making a combination. It's just deciding on the right stemware for the wine that you're going to use. And I think that is really what it's all about. Yeah, I'm not sure, you know, as this is the first time that I'm doing a live talk like this, is that I've most probably missed, I see a few thumbs and a few hearts going up, but it's very difficult to sort of follow it on the screen. But if you do have any questions, you know, I think you can definitely, pop us a little note on this platform, and we will definitely get back to you. And, when in doubt, bring out your favorite Graham Beck during this time of national shutdown, and just enjoy being sort of locked down. It's something that we have to do, and we are playing our part. And I wish you the best at home, and and above all, enjoy your loved ones wherever you are, and with whoever you are. And we just we celebrate the moments, and we celebrate what matters. So I'll be following up on some of the questions, and I see the high performance glass is getting some traction there. This is available through Riedel, and I'm no salesman for Riedel out there, but Riedel is on the forefront. They are doing some amazing work. They virtually have a glass for every variety in the world, basically. And as I mentioned, I've been in the conversation and been in tastings with George Riedel, and it's fascinating how it can influence the bubble. The one last thing I wanted to show in modern stemware, I'm not sure if this is going to really show, but if you, if hopefully you can see that. I'll just get a little bit closer. See, right on the inside of the bottle, bottom of the glass, there is like a laser spot. There's like 5 little dots in there. I hope you can see that. This is part of, it's not a trick really, but the interesting thing about stemware, and as I said, there should be another conversation on the etiquette and the preparation of glasses, which I would love to do with you. But that little laser spots in the glass definitely helps with the nucleation. The interesting thing is if you look at a bubble, it looks so explosive, but it actually needs a little rough tension on the inside surface of the glass to be able to give a nucleation point. A nucleation point is the point of departure where the bubble starts and then travels up. And by having the laser spots inside the glass, it concentrates obviously the action of the bubbles in the center of the glass, but it is the modern way of doing that. And not to let the cat out of the bag, but yeah, you have to, if you're using detergent, please make sure that you do, after washing the glasses, is to actually steam them to make sure that there's no residual of the soap that you used or detergent liquid that you used to clean the glass. Otherwise, you will have no bubbles. I will have to sit in front of you and show you. This wine usually has bubbles, but yeah, for this thing, we obviously have taken care. So do prepare your glasses. It will give the extra stimulation, and obviously it will give the wine an extra life over time. If you are mesmerized by looking at the bubbles, they will slowly dissipate over time because it's warming. We're doing this tasting outside, so the temperature is warming up, and at the same time, the life of a bubble is about 25 minutes. That is sort of the latest that we've got. There's a lot of talk of how many bubbles is in a bottle. We normally say it's about 49 million bubbles. So if you had to dilute or work it out into a glass where you have 6 pours, you are having at least 7 to 8. Where's my arithmetic now? Yeah, close to 9 million bubbles in a glass before it's a still wine. So catch your favorite wine before the bubbles run out. Otherwise, I'm not Bubbles Ferreira. So I hope that you've been entertained a little bit during lockdown, and I'm gladly going to look at your notes that you've given, and who knows, the next one will be very soon. Watch our feeds, and we will give you an idea, and I will introduce another bubbles from Graham Beck, and I urge you all to be safe, to be patient. This is seriously important for all of us, and enjoy lockdown, and yeah, why not celebrate? I was waiting for the Boeing to go over. But even they are locked down. So yeah, it is 11 o'clock all over the world at the moment, and I urge you back home, celebrate what matters. Thank you for listening, and tune in shortly. Thank you very much.